Council of West Warwick can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
There is no way I'll follow up. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much for hosting this event. This has been wonderful. West Warwick is a wonderful town to work with, and I'm very grateful. If we could have our opening remarks from the President and CEO of the Rhode Island Foundation, Mr. Cicilline.
Thank you, Deb. Good morning. I am very grateful that the Town Council President spoke in between that magnificent presentation of our national anthem, and I did not have to follow it, but thank you all for being here. I have participated virtually in this event for a number of years, but this is my first time I get to be here in person, and actually in my new role as the President and CEO of the Rhode Island Foundation, which, as most of you know, is Rhode Island's only community foundation and one of the oldest and largest in the country. Began in 1916 and has been a supporter and funder of Rhode Island elders for a very long time, and I will look for opportunities to continue to work to support veterans. So that was a very important part of my work as a member of Congress for the last 12 years. I considered it a great responsibility and a privilege to advocate and represent veterans in any capacity that I've served, and I will do the same as the President and CEO of the Rhode Island Foundation. So thank you to everyone who is here supporting the great heroes who have served our country. You can continue to expect the Rhode Island Foundation will be a partner, and thank you and have a great day.
Thank you. Retire the color guard.
Right, thanks. Over, march.
And this event, getting set up here this morning, truly was a Herculean task. If I could have Commander Garcia come up and say a few words about the VFW and the amazing crew that was here to set up 60-some tables, 7 o'clock this morning, get everything together, for whom I am deeply grateful. Rachel?
That was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Good morning, I'm Rachel Garcia. I'm the Veterans of Foreign Wars State Commander. And as Deb mentioned, we were here early, but I think that's just what veterans do. So we got the tables and chairs out in a quick turnaround. Welcome to this event. Veterans of Foreign Wars honors R.A. Eldred Karen Foe and Deb Burton. She's always a friend of the VFW and a huge supporter for veterans and military, as you can see. VFW is the big tent in the middle over here. So if you're not a member and you think you might be eligible, we have 2 sides. We have the veteran side, so eligibility based on that. And then we have the auxiliary side, so eligibility based on dependency status. So being a spouse or a child or to that effect. Please come see us. We do a lot of resources and community events. And we'd be happy to have you on board, happy to talk to you about any claims assistance and other things. So thank you so much for inviting us.
And I would like to introduce Kasim Yarn, head of the Rhode Island Office of Veteran Services.
Good morning, West Warwick. How we doing today? Awesome. Again, echo those sentiments about West Warwick. Thank you so much for being a leader and take care of our veterans. You know, I'd be remiss if I didn't pay homage to, Lynn St. Germain, Gold Star mother. Her son, we did a dedication a couple years back on the field there, and it's a majestic tone to set for how do we honor our fallen. We do it by supporting our veterans and military families. And I say that because I know everyone here, you also have day jobs as well. But yet you chose to serve others by coming in on the weekend. But that talks about who we are as Rhode Islanders. We honor our veterans, we honor their military families, but it doesn't stop there because many of you served, some of you are still serving, and some of you also are Gold Star family members as well, surviving family members. That's the message. This is why calling all veterans is so critically important for our community, because when we talk about, I'm a Navy guy, but when we talk to the Army, we talk about the cavalry. We talk about when is the cavalry coming. Well, guess what? We are the cavalry. Serving those that serve. Each one of us here plays a key role in the delivery of those services. And when you take a step back, you're going to realize that we collectively provide an impact that will enhance the veteran experience. There are no borders when it comes to serving American heroes. There are no organizations out there that are not willing to pitch in to help, to do their fair share, to do their part, to honor, to serve America's heroes. So as we start to welcome our veterans here today, continue to thank them for their service, but also personally. I cannot do this work, this mission alone. It takes all 39 cities and towns, our elected officials, our nonprofits, for-profits, our employers that are hiring our veterans, those that are caring for the loved ones of our veterans. That's the message. That's the essence of why calling all veterans is so critically important. And please, don't let her fool you. Give Deb another round of applause as well, because she also does a lot in this work, in this place. But my time on the mic is short, but personally, when you are here on the weekend serving others, I am right there in the trenches right along with you. God bless you, we love you, take care and have a wonderful day.
And again, as you all know, our Elder Info is a small nonprofit. And so I wanted to give a big shout out to Newport Mental Health, Rob Levine and Associates, AARP, for making this event possible. I'd also like to say thank you to the Advantages of Aging, and it's in alphabetical order so I don't miss anybody. Aetna, the Alzheimer's Association, the Brain Injury Association. They're going to be giving a presentation right after this on distracted driving. CareLink, Crystal Lake Rehab Center. Danette and your amazing voice. Holy moly. F3 Financial, the Home Mobility Pros. Lifespan giving a great talk about brain health. Super important for all of us. Oak Street Health, they support us all year long. Oakley Home Access, amazing programs. Ocean State Center for Independent Living. Rob Levine and Associates and United Healthcare. It's with their support and the fact that you all answered when I called that has made Calling All Veterans Day possible. And for that, I'm truly grateful. We want to help people get connected to what's already out there. So if you're watching online, come on down. We're at 100 Factory Street in West Warwick at the West Warwick Civic Center. There's plenty of signs because I had help setting those signs out today. There's a lot of folks here already, and I appreciate that. If for some reason there's something that you need or want and you don't find it here today, please reach out to me. There are many organizations that wanted to be here but had a conflict. I want to make sure that everybody gets the information and resources they need to remain independent or to care for their loved ones who are trying to remain independent. But basically, everybody's been standing, listening to folks talk. It's about time you enjoy yourselves. So for the folks who are watching online, you're going to see some pre-recorded interviews with some of our guests today. For everyone else, enjoy the 4th annual Calling All Veterans Day.
Well, everybody, Calling All Veterans Day is really a great, great event. And I really hope that you stop by the West Warwick Civic Center today and check out everyone in person. But we are taking a minute to meet with some of the organizations that are really doing some great things that aren't able to make it to the event today, because I didn't want you to miss out on hearing about these really, really amazing organizations. And of course, you know, as a nonprofit, we would not have been able to bring you Calling All Veterans Day without the support of Newport Mental Health. They have a great veterans team going on down there. AARP of Rhode Island and Levine and Associates. Really, these places are making a difference for our veterans. So I'd like to invite up my next guest, U.S. Air Force veteran Mel Bloom from the 350 Girls.
How are you
Hi,
doing
Mel.
today?
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So tell everyone, what are or is the 350 Girls?
So we're 350 Girls to represent all 350,000 women who served in the military in World War II. Media campaigns at the time insisted on calling women in uniform girls as an attempt to minimize what they were doing and to demoralize the women who were serving. And the women ended up taking that term girls and made it their own. So we decided to call ourselves 350 Girls to represent the 350,000 women, but also to take that legacy of being the girls and keep that legacy going. So we are military historians, we're educators, and we also do a bit of living history.
Wow. So what kinds of roles did the women play in the early days? When we often think of Rosie the Riveter, but Rosie was a civilian working here at home a lot of times.
Right. And where it gets a little confusing is that a lot of women did serve in the lower 48. With the exception of women who served with the Army, the Navy, the Marines, and the Coast Guard kept women stationed here in the United States. So there is a little bit of confusion on what's the difference between a Rosie who was working in the factories and what's the difference between a Marine who was working in the motor pool in California. And it does come down to that military contract and that military enlistment. Both had very important roles to play. Both were instrumental in keeping what was known as the American theater going. But one was a civilian and one was enlisted or commissioned in the military as a member of the armed forces.
Wow. Okay. So what was the inspiration for you to take the leap to start a nonprofit, the 350 Girls?
So when I was in basic training, we had to go through our heritage courses on the Doolittle Raiders, Hap Arnold, and there was a little bit of coverage on the women service pilots, the WASPs, but there really wasn't a whole lot of coverage on women's military history. And I asked about it, and they're like, well, we have Grace Peterson in the 50s, but when I got out of basic training, I started doing more reading and looking around saying there had to have been women prior to the 1950s, prior to serving, and I kind of caught the bug from there. And so when I was trying to get out and start teaching and trying to find a reenactment group that was offering these kinds of programs and these kinds of histories, I kept getting told, well, it doesn't really exist. So if you want it, you should do it yourself. So we did.
Wow. When it doesn't exist, make it. I understand that philosophy very, very well.
Exactly.
So how long has 350 Girls, like when did you start it?
So we launched in October of last year. So this is our first full summer. Our goal was to get through Women's History Month. And our thought was if we get through Women's History Month and there's interest in this, we'll keep going. And somehow we are almost at the end of the summer. We've had back-to-back events and already are booking for 2024. So it was kind of a surprise to us that there was so much interest instead of us just being like, oh, we're going to be attached to a men's reenactment group or just do one or two programs. Instead, that the support we've had and the curiosity and the interest in what we do has just exploded. And we've been so grateful to have that support and that interest in what we do.
What do you think has been the biggest teachable moment? What do most people really misunderstand about women who serve or have served?
I think people don't understand that what women were doing in World War II was not quote unquote women's work. Some of what comes to mind when we tell people that women were serving in World War II, they'll say, well, they were secretaries, or they were doing women's work. They were doing roles that were acceptable to women. And kind of going back to that Rosie comparison, women were taking on tasks that men had previously held. So when people tell us that women were doing women's work, well, they were literally taking over a chair or a role that had been vacated by a man. So they weren't doing women's work. They were motor pool, they were mechanics. A third of women in the Navy waves, they were working in aviation. They were draftspeople, they were doing meteorology. They took on every single role except for combat. So the big misconception is when people think that it's just like a cute little desk job the girls were doing in heels, and trying to explain to people that, no, this was a full-blown military role. I think that's probably people's biggest surprise when we talk to them about what women were doing.
That is amazing. And so you have these back-to-back presentations. What could someone expect if they attended one of your presentations?
So depending on where we're at, we either will tailor it to the venue. We've had requests to do something just based on Cape Cod veterans. We've done something based entirely around uniforms. One of our more common displays or more common presentations, we do offer an overview of all the women's roles. We'll cover everything from the Army, its auxiliary in 42 up to the Integrated Service Act. But we have also done things where we just focus on the women who are stationed on the Chatham radio station down on the Cape. So it really depends on the event and on the topic. But we can cover quite a bit.
I think people don't realize how important the East Coast was during World War II.
It's interesting because if you look at the definition of the American theater in World War II, it's actually listed as being an anti-submarine mission. And from Florida all the way up to Newfoundland, there was U-boat sightings and German radio traffic being intercepted. So I guess that's probably another misconception, is that people don't understand that even though we know in hindsight war never came to the East Coast, it was very much a war zone, and there were credible sightings. There was a U-boat sunk off the coast of Rhode Island, off of Point Judith, and 12 American men had been killed in an act when the U-boat had fired on them. So a lot of people think that it was safer for the women here in the States, but when women signed up, they didn't know it was any safer than the WACs, who were the women who were going over to Italy and down to out to Normandy.
So it wasn't as though when the women signed up that they had a choice any different than when someone today signs up. They can't say, well, I want to stay, close to home. You go where you're sent, right?
Exactly. And it's funny because we do have some documents of women who were like, oh, I thought I was going to be down in Florida, or I thought I was going to be near this guy I was dating. And it's like, oh, wait, no, never mind. You're going up to Minnesota. You're going to Illinois. Some people got Palm Beach and other people got, Wisconsin or Boulder, Colorado, or Dayton,
which
Ohio.
are also beautiful places.
Yeah, they're all great places, all very important missions. But you do read the letters where the women kind of having this culture shock where they're just like, I'm getting on a train to where? And I'm sure the men probably had similar situations where they thought, hey, I'm going to get sent over to here. I'm going to get a desk job. And it's like, no, you're down in Guam now. So the women were very much under military order the same way the men were. They just couldn't be sent to certain combat locations.
And did you find in your history research that there are a lot of hidden heroes in the women who served?
I think every single one of them. And I think a big thing about what these women went through, a lot of them came home from the war and didn't even have the same resources, or they never talked about their service. So it seems like every woman we learn about when we're at an event and someone comes up to us and says, oh, my grandmother was in. One of the big things about the women who served in World War II is they were all volunteers. And even though we have more specific examples of women who may have done specific things, I think that every single woman who signed up being a volunteer, I think the fact that they endured sexism in addition to all the horrors of war and all the ways they had to push back, women didn't get decent uniforms in some cases. So women did everything that was required of them by the military with these additional hardships, and they did it all as volunteers. So when it comes to hidden heroes, it's very hard to pin down any single one of these women, because what they all did was incredible. And they did it without any thanks and without many of the same benefits the men did.
And do you find that that's changing now? Like, do you feel like things are opening back up? I know one of the examples that I had heard from a woman veteran is that some of the uniforms were just not constructed in a way that could fit a woman's body in the best way. Are you finding like those kinds of really practical things have changed over time?
So when I went in, I enlisted in 2015, and I know that at the time that I went in, maternity uniforms were a big conversation. And I know there's been conversations around hair and makeup. I know that I personally still have damage to my hairline from the hairstyles that we had to have in basic training. The men get like just to shave their head. The women still have to maintain a certain level of, ladylike appearance. And I always said I should have shaved my head for basic. Would have made my life so much easier. But I think that women, and I'm speaking for myself as a veteran now, but it was definitely tough because there were times where it was like, we have to do the same things as men, but we have to do it. And we can't complain about it the way that men can, because when men complain about things, well, it's the military, it's camaraderie. And girls don't really have the same freedom to be uncomfortable or complain, even though complaining is a huge part of military culture. So women kind of get stripped of that same sort of camaraderie as the men, because if we complain, it's evidence we can't do it. And I think that was probably the biggest challenge when I was in.
Yeah, I can understand that I can understand that on a lot of different levels. Absolutely. And to think that, I think you said you enlisted in 2015.
Yes. And I actually went in the same year that all combat restrictions were lifted for women. Which is kind of crazy in hindsight, because people think a lot of these things are history, but there's still women making history in the military today. Women weren't allowed to serve on ships until 1990. They weren't allowed on submarines until 2010. And at this point, we still make up 17% of the active armed forces. And so when we talk about history and talk about these kinds of things, things are still changing.
Because if you think about talking about maternity uniforms in 2015, that was 8 years ago. That's like a stone's throw in a timeline of 8 years ago. They thought about maybe women who serve might be pregnant at some time.
And I know they had options when I was in, but there's definitely concerns about how comfortable they were. And when I was actually at the Women's Veterans Conference, one of the conversations and one of the vendors there was actually talking about sports bras for women. And I remember when we went to basic training, we would just get these like cheap ones from the BX, and that's supposed to support you for all the physical training. And the PT uniform was horrendously uncomfortable, but that's what you got issued. And you just took it. It's what you had. Didn't complain.
Right. So when you go out with 350 girls, do you have examples of what the uniforms were in the past as compared to today? Is that something that people who come to your presentations can see, that kind of contrast?
It is. So when we go out, depending on the event, we usually have 3 or 4 original uniforms with us. Occasionally, we will be wearing some of these uniforms. We're trying to get reproduction so we can wear replicas of these uniforms. So we have, at this point, we've got one from every single branch of the women's service. So we have a Marine uniform, Navy uniform, Coast Guard, and Women's Army Corps. And one of our favorite moments from a recent event was actually when a woman who's serving in the Army today came up and was standing beside one of our World War II Women's Army uniforms, and just seeing how the uniforms evolved over the years. And just seeing, modern day Army next to one of the vintage uniforms. It was the coolest thing to see that side by side like that. And it does make people really happy to see that. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe women did that. There's and a skirt.
Exactly. And there's an expectation of the stereotype norms of feminine and femininity and being the gentle girl. And if necessary, still have the training to take somebody out if you had to.
Well, and that's the crazy thing about how they marketed a lot of the recruitment materials in World War II. One of the big things for the Navy is they actually got an American fashion designer. And some women were of the opinion that hiring an American fashion designer and focusing so much on what the women were wearing was detracting from their very serious military mentality. The Army didn't worry as much about what their uniform looked like, but then you've got documentation of women saying, well, I'm going to join the Navy because the uniform's better. We're also coming out of the Great Depression at this point in American history, so clothes was a solid recruitment material. But it is a skirt, it is a pair of heels. They did end up getting work uniforms later on in the war, but I still have photos of Marines doing mechanical work on planes in heels.
I was just going to ask that if the mechanics, if they were in skirt and heels as you're trying to, work on some of these major pieces of engines and things.
There's some great photos. I mean, they had what was called the HBT uniform, and it's like a coverall, but they're still wearing socks and a pair of heeled Oxfords. They did have work boots in some situations, but there are enough document and photos of women wearing like the oversized coverall, their hair in a turban, and then a pair of heeled Oxfords. And it's like, don't tell OSHA, this is probably not going to be allowed. And I know some of them did have work boots, but we have seen photos of both options.
And so it's not only doing what the public often perceives as a man's job, but it's doing it in heels as well.
Exactly. And where we like to joke that whereas men like to do like rucks, or other veterans like to do rucks where they'll march with like 30 pounds to represent veterans, when we do parades, a lot of times we do it in these original dress uniforms. And our method of pain is doing it in these original heels. We did a 5-mile parade over Memorial Day in these heels, and just like the women did. And it gives you a newfound respect because they had to do it all and still look graceful. They had a beauty salon in basic training. I mean, they always had to have their hair done. The red lipstick was a big thing. So yes, there was a huge expectation they were going to do this and look good while doing it.
And they did.
And they did. They looked fabulous. I mean, we've got some incredible images of the women doing work in all kinds of conditions in these great looking uniforms with their hair done.
That is amazing, amazing, amazing. So for 350 Girls, how do people reach out to you? Is the best way to reach you on social media or email? If people want to learn more or to schedule you to come out, I understand you're expanding into other states now. Tell me more.
So one of the best ways to keep up with us is going to be our social media. We try and post at least once or twice a week, a little bit about like this week in history, or share some more women's facts, or a little bit more about the history of what they did. So that's a great place to learn more about women and learn more about our organization. The best way to reach us is going to be that email address on the screen there. But yes, we are expanding down to Savannah, Georgia. So things are a little bit in flux right now because we're figuring out nonprofit paperwork in 2 different states. But we will be doing events in Georgia, primarily the Savannah area, and then still here in Rhode Island and in Massachusetts. And we've been telling everyone that if they want to book us for some of these big milestones next year, for like Veterans Day, Women's Veterans Day in June, Women's History Month, to email us as soon as possible, because we've already thankfully had so many requests, and we're trying to get everything on the schedule as we can. And that's been kind of a shock. We're so grateful to have so many opportunities in so many different ways to share this history, especially for things like Women's History Month and for Women's Veterans Day.
Is it something that you take out to the schools and educate the little kids?
We've been looking into that. It's kind of amazing how fast we've grown, because we're still learning and growing as we go. And we've had requests. We've definitely done museums, but where they'll bring school groups in. Because something people tell us is, well, we can talk about Rosie the Riveter because there's like an online program, but there really isn't a curriculum or a program for school groups. And some museums do have that, but we're still looking into ways that we can offer this for schools and as a homeschool curriculum as well. So we've got some big ideas and some things coming.
That is awesome. And so if people watching want to support the work you're doing, or get involved, or volunteer, or I don't know, help with social media, or share their stories of being women veterans back in the day, what is the best way for people to support you? I hear you're working on that 501c3 status, and I know that can take a little while, but if people wanted to support you, how can they do that?
So, well, we are working on that 501c status, which now we're doing in 2 states, but we can't take monetary donations at this time, but we are asking that if people are interested, they can either share in like our accounts, they can come to events. We try and have a couple of volunteer opportunities. Last year we did Wreaths Over America, and then we also did for Memorial Day. So we'll be posting volunteer opportunities as well. So if people want to come out and help support, we love doing the stuff with the cemetery, because that stuff tends to get ignored, or people kind of forget the significance of what we do. Actually 198 women were killed in American uniforms. So we really love going out to the cemeteries and paying our respects that way. So we will be posting some volunteer opportunities for things like that. But in the meantime, the biggest thing we can ask for is for people to share and keep promoting our mission on with their friends, their families, come to an event, come to a lecture, and share what they learn, talk about the women veterans. And when people do want to share their stories, we do ask them to send us an email. We actually received some donations of uniforms last year from some people who told us, well, if you don't take them, my kids are going to throw them out. So we ask the people, if that's going to be their situation, reach out to us and we'll see if we can't take it, if we can connect you to a museum that can. So we want to make sure this history doesn't get thrown out or just disappear.
That would be absolutely a heartbreak to hear that it got thrown away, but how cool would it be to have the uniform of a woman who served and the story behind it and the actual maybe photograph of the woman who wore it, the real life history of that uniform. Like that would be awesome.
It's really special when we get these uniforms. We had one woman who we told her, like, we're not set up to take donations. She's like, can you please just take it? Because my kids are going to throw it out. And she sent us all of her photographs. I mean, everything she had ever been issued. And she was one of the first women to become a Marine in the 1950s. So wow. She was very early in women's military history. And she was like, I'm not asking for tax receipts. I'm just asking you to hold on to this and save it.
And if people don't need the tax receipts and they want to help you financially, they could potentially do that. Of course, they'd need to speak with their tax advisors and all of those things.
Yes. If they want to take on the legal issue, we're making sure we're keeping everything kosher because, we still.
Exactly. This is important. Yes. Yeah. As a fellow nonprofit, I get it. You got to dot the I's and cross the T's.
Yes.
And you want to make sure your foundation is solid. I get it.
But we want to make sure that we have that backing so that way we can keep bringing this history and really expand on what we've done. When we started out, we didn't think it would be even expandable to become a nonprofit. But as we've grown, it's become very clear that that's the next step for us. So we're definitely historians more than legal people, but we've got a good team and we're working on it at this point.
That is awesome. So the contact information again, what's the best way to reach you?
Definitely check out our website. And then the best way to reach us is by our email, which is 350girls spelled out @gmail. And then follow us on Instagram and Facebook and see what we're up to, see where we're going. We post a lot of our research projects on our social too. So if you want to see how we're documenting these stories and how we're collecting and where we're at. I mean, we went down to Mount Holyoke a couple months ago to research the women who are stationed there. So all that's going to be on our social. So you can see the process that we go through to actually collect and preserve this history.
That's awesome. And it's the number 3, the number 5 spelled out, and O like OH. Girls.
Mm-hmm.
350 girls.
Yep. That's 350girls @gmail. And then, yes, on our social medias as well. We're trying to figure out the TikTok, and I think we're a little too old for that, but we're trying to figure that one out.
There's no such thing as too old.
TikTok is a whole other.
It is.
I'd rather do the legal paperwork than figure out TikTok.
I feel that statement. Yes. Mel, I'm so glad that you were able to join us for the virtual Calling All Veterans Day today. And I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing. And I feel really lucky to have met you several months ago over at the Bristol Veterans Home. So thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having us and for including us. We think this is a great cause, and the more we can get these stories out there, that makes us so happy. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Everybody, 350 girls, did you know that there were 350,000 women who served? Absolutely amazing. So please come on down, check out Calling All Veterans Day in person over on Factory Street at the West Warwick Civic Center. You don't want to miss it. A lot of amazing stuff happening. So I am going to be welcoming my next guest in just a moment. Thank you. Hey, everybody. As you know, this is the Calling All Veterans Day virtual event. And I hope when you're done watching that you come on down to the West Warwick Civic Center at 100 Factory Street in West Warwick and you join us. And if you happen to have been there first and you're watching this on record, please hit the like, share, and comment button and let us know what it was like for you to experience it in person with us. So we are having a great time today in speaking to amazing organizations who are doing things in our community for our veterans. So my next guest is the commander of the Rhode Island VFW. Welcome, Rachel Garcia.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for
Hi,
having
Commander.
me. Hi, Deb. I'm good. How are you?
Very good on this fine day. I am so glad you took the time out to come on and speak with us. Tell everybody, what is the VFW doing these days? What is it about? What's the latest and greatest under your command?
Yeah, sure. So I am the department commander for the state of Rhode Island Veterans of Foreign Wars. And the Veterans of Foreign Wars is a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to supporting veterans, active duty military personnel, and their families. So what we do is we support all veterans and military families in our community, not just those who have served in a foreign war, but primarily our mission is dedicated to those folks who have. So my mission this year is really dedicated to, well, it's dedicated to all veterans, but specifically our aging and elderly population. So I have transcribed a committee, a special project to advocate on behalf of our aging population and our elder care within our Rhode Island community. And so we'll be starting that project within the next couple of months. And so we'll pick a few salient goals and projects to do, and then we'll have them completed by the end of my commander year.
That is awesome. And I think it's interesting because when we hear Veterans of Foreign Wars, the VFW, I think it becomes really easy to think that it's that old school folks who, storm the beaches, that kind of thing. What is the VFW like in present day? For instance, you're working with the families now too. So what is it like now versus what it has been in the past?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of the same characteristics that really make up our Veterans of Foreign War organization and support of veterans in the community. I think there's a lot of consistency over time historically with our advocacy, our community service, our camaraderie, our family structure, and all of those other things. So my goal is not to take away any of the tradition. In fact, it's really to expand upon the tradition of the VFW, but also acknowledge that we're in 2023 and we need to modernize some of these posts that we have. So there is some revitalization projects that are happening from our national organizational perspective, and then also some grants that we're looking into to revitalize some of the posts that are in our communities in Rhode Island. We are trying to become more family-centric and focused because some of the feedback that we've gotten from members or potential members, veterans who are not signing up for our organization because of time restraints, they're working during the day, they can't commit to evening hour meetings, meetings are too long. There's some of these things that we're still doing, but I also think that we're not doing enough of the other things since COVID. So because of COVID, we've lost some of that community service aspect going into the VA Medical Center to do those sort of support advocacy pieces, and we're just starting to come out of that. So I'm seeing a lot more community service in our post communities, which is phenomenal. So we're getting out, we're doing a lot more things. One of our VFW posts in North Providence, 10,011, recently partnered with the VA Medical Center to do a baby shower, which was something very unique to the post in Rhode Island specifically. So that was kind of neat. And then VFW 152 out North Kingstown does a lot of family and military friendly events. So Carnival, we're going to Carnival for Heroes this weekend on Saturday in support of the National Guard to give out school supplies. And they do an October Vets event where they do a 5K and a carnival for kids and families. And so our posts are really trying to modernize their kind of approach to events and programmatic pieces within our community, but we also need a lot of support. So we do have a lot of members who have been a part of the organization for quite some time, who come from other generational wars, Korea, World War II, Vietnam, and we're not seeing so much of our Iraq, Afghanistan, Persian Gulf veterans joining our organization as much as we'd like to help support in these activities and events. And it is really a beautiful commitment that you get to do outside of service or outside of military service, or continue to do that within your community, and you build this sort of family structure that you might have lost while leaving the military, an identity that you may have lost while leaving the military. So my recommendation to anybody who's wanting to get back out there, who thinks of the Veterans of Foreign Wars as this smoky bar where we drink, we don't. There are still posts that do that. We are trying to change that as a national organization, and we need members to do that. So as I mentioned, there's some VFWs who have posts and some that do not. And the ones that do not tend to do they're far more influenced in the community as far as community service, because they don't have a post to kind of manage and take care of. But posts are really, really wonderful too, because it gives a safe place for people to go and connect and do all these things. So yeah.
So if someone watching right now is a veteran, or maybe a spouse of the veteran, or an adult child of the veteran, what kind of resources or community support can the VFW provide? Because I think sometimes people may not reach out because they don't know what questions to ask, or they don't know what's available, or how to navigate, or all of those different things, and maybe hesitant to reach out. So if someone were watching, what kinds of things can the VFW help folks with?
Yeah. So we do the big thing that we do is we do claims consulting and advocacy through our Rhode Island Veteran Service Office. So we have a department service officer who represents veterans and their families through either compensation or pension claims through the Veterans Administration. That includes disability benefits, or aid in attendance, or housebound, caregiver support, all of those types of things. We're not the VA. We don't work for the VA. We advocate on behalf of the veteran to help navigate the forms process. It is the veteran or the spouses or the dependents' claim. We're just here to help. And so our services are 100% free. I do acknowledge and recognize that lawyers, and there's a lot of conversation about PACT Act, Camp Lejeune, call this lawyer. I would encourage anyone to reach out to a veteran service officer, a representative, somebody who is accredited through the VA, somebody who is trained through the VA. And usually you can locate those individuals at any regional office, any VA regional office. So ours is located down on Westminster Street in Providence, Rhode Island. We have DAV, VFW, UMass Vets. We have a bunch of service orgs to choose from, and they're just here to help you. The other thing that we do is we have an unmet needs program. It's a national program that if folks are struggling, I'll give you an example. I had a veteran who needed to go back and forth to school. He was service connected, and this was his only means of getting back and forth to school. And so what he had to do was he had to do repair costs. So we got a receipt and invoice for repair costs, send it to unmet needs. They approved it, and they were able to kind of pay that for him so he can continue on his track to education. So that's just one example. There's food insecurities or other things that could be a potential, but unmet needs is found at vfw.org. A lot of the advocacy and program projects that we do for youth through our VFW Auxiliary, which is thriving in our state. So for our spouses and dependents who want to join the VFW and maybe do some service in the community or be a part of these big youth scholarships that we do, Patriots Pen, Voice of Democracy, please join our organization. We need just as much support on the auxiliary side as we do on the VFW side, and we complement each other well. So there's a lot of services that the VFW offers. The big ones are claims consulting and legislative advocacy. So I personally go to DC twice a year, September and March, and petition and advocate on behalf of veterans and military service members. And that could also, that's also including DoD installation, advocacy, educational systems on DoD installations, and those types of things. VA healthcare, VA facilities such as caregiving facilities, and dependency indemnity compensation increase, which is a big one that we're trying to do right now. So if you look up VFW legislative priorities, you can see what our priority list is. And anybody who thinks or feels a passion with regard to any of those priorities, please send that to your congressperson, because that helps VFW support your mission on the Hill.
Wow. You are really, really busy. And for folks who may be family members, I just want to rewind one sec. Comp and pen. Can you please explain the difference between those two? Because I think it becomes really easy to get those mixed up for folks who maybe aren't familiar with those terms and trying to help someone else.
Yeah. So if you are a veteran who has incurred a disability or a symptom that is impacting your ability to have full-time gainful employment or have a quality social life or what have you, due to such conditions from the service, from your military time, you could be eligible for VA compensation through the VA. So that would be what our claims consultants do at VFW, American Legion, DAV, etc. The VA also handles these types of claims as well, which is fabulous, and we partner very well with them. The pension side of that is for folks that are wartime veterans. So you have to have served at least 90 days consecutive. You had to have served at least one day during a wartime, not necessarily have been deployed or boots on ground in country, but during a wartime. And you have to fall under a certain financial mean. So it can be kind of complex when you're looking at these pension benefits to include aid and attendance, which is a caregiver support benefit that helps offset the cost of caring for a veteran either in home or in assisted living, nursing care, or another facility. It doesn't pay for the total cost of a care. I mean, is astronomical how much care is. I mean, I went to a home visit with a veteran who was paying $12,000 a month for her husband's care, and it was running low on money. And then so we had to file a claim to try to make up for some of that loss in income. So something like that, if you think that you're eligible, again, the veteran has to be 90 days consecutive active duty days. So you can locate that information on discharge papers, DD 214. You can go down to the Veterans Administration if you don't have access to that, again, on Westminster Street, and you can gather military records on behalf of the veteran if need be, but you might need some documentation to support that. If you think that you're eligible, I would highly encourage you to seek the services of a service officer or CVA public contact at the VA regional office.
So there's the regional office downtown. There's also offices in the Providence VA Medical Center in the basement. So if folks are going for their medical care, they can also go down in the basement. It's in the hallway opposite the cafeteria. So if you've been to the Providence VA Medical Center, that'll make sense. It'll be the doors down on the left-hand side. I was actually just there yesterday. And so for the VA aid and attendance benefit, it is really expensive if you need to pay for care. So average assisted living facility is probably a little over $8,000 a month. If you had to pay for a CNA, a nurse's assistant, to come into the house with like bathing and dressing, that's going right now about $40 per hour. And many places have a minimum number of hours and days that they will require you to contract for. So when you say the VA aid and attendance benefit can help with that, do they send the check to the veteran? Do they send the check to the care provider? Or is it something you can, as a veteran, you can sign off for the check to go directly there? Is it something that takes a long time to apply for? So I just hit you with a bunch of questions all at once.
No, Yeah, so the application process can take some time. We have PACT Act claims that just had a deadline of August 9th that was now extended to Monday. So just Tuesday at one event in 3 hours, we filed 100 claims. So there's going to be an uptick of these claims coming in for PACT Act related contaminant exposure due to Agent Orange or burn pit exposure due to Iraq, Afghanistan. So I would imagine that if you apply for aid and attendance, this application is going to take a few months. So what I tell folks is that just kind of setting your expectations to the fullest, because I do understand the anxiety of waiting for something to be either granted or denied to be able to move forward with that process, to appeal it or what have you. That waiting period can be very anxious, and I do fully acknowledge that. But for expectation purposes, I would just state that it's the federal government. There is a lot of forms and a lot of military documentation that one person, and then through a chain of events through the claims process, has to identify, look at, and then relook at, and then relook at, just to make sure everything is on point. So the VA is doing a really good job at pushing claims out. They're quality work. I've seen a difference over the last couple of years. So those expectations, just be mindful of those. Now, if you think that there is an income threshold, so if you feel that you might not be there yet, you're making too much money or you have too much liquid assets. So house does not count as a liquid asset. I want to be very clear about that. A lot of folks ask me about that. A car does not count as a liquid asset. Rental income property would count as an income asset. So that's something different, but your primary residence would not. The liquid assets include CDs, money markets, trusts, checking, savings, those types of things. If the trust is in a, you only get it every couple of months and it's this amount of money, you would just need to provide those court document records in order to just kind of justify that as not that entire asset. But there are ways to bring that down with either medical necessity, medical equipment, some things that you're paying out of pocket, mileage, those types of things. So if you feel as though you might not meet the financial requirements for this particular program, I would still encourage you to meet with a service officer just to get information and kind of know, okay, this is that threshold. This is what you can expect. This is when you should start filing for this stuff so that you can do it on time and prepare for that event. As far as the check, it goes directly to the veteran. The veteran is then responsible to pay the caregiver or facility. It's not very much. A surviving spouse is in or around $1,400. That was with an 8% increase. We had a Social Security and VA increase recently, which was the highest, and I think it was the highest in our history. Wow. So that won't be a lot. If you are a veteran, you're looking at an additional maybe $2,200, I think is what it is. You're going to have to go on, or folks are going to have to go on the va.gov website, aid and attendance. They have a wonderful section, a fact sheet with bullet points, exactly how you're eligible for and whether or not you qualify. So you can kind of advocate on your own behalf and look at those before you sit down with a service officer. I also encourage you to do that as well.
Absolutely. And if you're a family member who's like, I don't know, dad's in the hospital, he can't tell me where to find his paperwork. I know that he went to Vietnam. I don't even know what his discharge paperwork looked like in his file cabinet. How do I get started? Is that something that the VSO, a veteran service officer, can help a family member kind of sort through to even find the paperwork before they even can figure out if they can apply?
Absolutely. And I will sometimes, even as myself as I was a service officer prior to my department commander position, and I would inquire those types of military record releases and other things through our Director of Veteran Affairs, which is Kasim Yarn's office, RI Vets. They can pull these records rather quickly sometimes. So that might be a really good source for some folks to access, and absolutely a service officer can. I would just say that service officers are volunteer mainly, and we only, for VFW specifically, we have one person for the whole state right now. And so he does the best he can in these sort of communications back. People will wait for him, and we are working on getting more staffing, State of Rhode Island just offered us a $100,000 line item. So now we can start hiring. We're in the process of that. And we have to work with the team and the board and everything else. But so you should see more service officers in our community. But I would encourage anybody to find an accredited service officer, ask any questions that you have. There aren't any stupid questions. We can do a pretty good job at kind of piecing through what you might need with some of the stuff that folks state out loud or with the records that we see. You might not know what you're looking at when you read a VA document, and you as a spouse might not know what you're looking at when you're looking at military records. So I could say DD 214 and you say, what?
Exactly.
So that is what a service officer does. And so what they'll do is they'll go through that. And I've also, I've gone through military records on behalf of the veteran for the spouse for the purposes of outlining their military service, because veterans have a hard time explaining their military service to their spouse. And when they pass, that's something that they weren't able to gather or get the stories and the situations. And so that's something else that we can do. We can go through a DD 214 or military service and tell you what they've done based on their record. And it can sometimes help with some closure and just understanding the identity of their spouse. So there's a lot of things that we do. Just like I said, we're just a little short staffed, so it might take a few weeks to get back to you. But once we do, we're right on it.
And I feel like even if it does take a little while for someone to be able to sit down with an individual, it's better to wait than try to fight your way through a stack of governmental paperwork and then maybe submit it wrong or not include things, and now there's a delay. Better to sit down and get it right the first time, because the government itself moves, at glacial speed. And so getting it right the first time, I think, is really important. And how does one know if a VSO is an accredited veteran service officer?
Oh, so every VA accredited service officer can be found on the VA OCG website. What does that stand for, you say? I'm not sure. Something accredited. So we have accreditation numbers. So you can find us. So you would put, when you go to the VA OCG website, you can put down my name, for instance, Rachel Garcia. You just have to spell it accurately. And then I'll pop up with my number. So you can kind of check that. You can also ask the person for their accreditation number, and then you can look it up that way to verify that they're still accredited. Accreditation is important because anybody could file a claim on your behalf. Your neighbor could, if you wanted them to. You have to verify that they can by signing off on a form. An accredited rep is somebody who is specifically trained, who also has access to all of your VA records, who can track your claim process if needed, who can identify letters for you on your behalf. So it's much different. And again, we're also free. So the lawyers that are on the TV that are saying, we'll get you your stuff, they have the same process that an accredited service officer has to go to, because the federal government is the same process no matter who you are. So it doesn't matter if you're a lawyer or a VA accredited representative, you're still getting the same service, because you still have to file the same forms. You still have to qualify under diagnosis and an in-service event and a chronic condition. You still have to go to a comp and pen appointment. So I tell folks I would prefer to spend nothing on a claim that I am entitled to as a veteran of a foreign war than to give a lawyer 50 to 80% of my back pay that I deserved. So I just want to make that very clear as well. There are times when you do need a lawyer, and I think a service officer can direct you to them when those times are necessary.
Awesome. So Rachel, any final thoughts? If people wanted to join the VFW or support your work, how would they do that?
Yeah, so VFWRI.org has a lot of our upcoming events and programs. We try to update it as best as we can, so you can check the calendar. We also have a slider on there, so you can come to anything that we do, veteran or not veteran. We take allyships as well at our community events. If you wanted to sign up for the VFW, VFW.org, sign up online, and then that would go to our VFW department, and then we can either help assign you a post with what you want to do in the community or what you're inspired to do, or a post that's next to your home or next to your job. So we have 23 posts in the state, plenty to choose from. And yeah, that's all you have to do. Or you can contact us at our phone number, which is 401-574-8161, and we can help you sign up as well.
That is awesome. I know that your schedule is wildly busy, especially with the new commandership. You're setting up a lot of amazing things for our fellow Rhode Islanders and your fellow veterans. So I appreciate you taking the time to come on to Calling All Veterans virtual event today.
Oh, you're always a friend of the VFW, Deb.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everybody, it is an amazing program and resources that the VFW offers. So please, if you have questions about anything you've seen, give Rachel a call. It's the 401-574-8161. And as you know, we are really grateful that our sponsors have allowed us to be able to bring you Calling All Veterans virtual event. So big shout out to Newport Mental Health and AARP of Rhode Island, as well as Levine and Associates. It is their help that is helping us reach you. Well, everybody, it has been an amazing day so far at the 4th annual Calling All Veterans Day event. This is the virtual live stream show, which we did pre-record so that you can get more information. If you have the opportunity, come on down to 100 Factory Street in West Warwick. It's the West Warwick Civic Center, where you can meet, maybe 50, 60 different resource providers. So I encourage you to come on down. And let me tell you, this whole event, live streaming in person, would not be possible without the support of Newport Mental Health and AARP Rhode Island, as well as Rob Levine and Associates. It is their support that is allowing us to bring this event to you. So my next guest has an amazing program over on Aquidneck Island. I would like to invite Megan from Birdhaven Ranch. Hi, Megan. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Very good. Very good. So Birdhaven Ranch, it's kind of a new place offering some really cool stuff. What do you got going on over there?
We have horses and goats and bunny rabbits and a lot of learning.
That is awesome. So what is the impetus of Birdhaven Ranch? What made it get started? Are you passionate about this, or
I'm passionate about sharing knowledge of horses and horseback riding and goats and bunny rabbits and farm animals. I love the farm animals, and how we can benefit from our interaction with them.
That is awesome. So what kinds of services and resources could people participate in at Birdhaven Ranch?
So we do, we have the horses, and they're kind of senior horses. So they're not as likely to be bouncing around, which is great because I like helping people who need them to be calm, who benefit from them being calm. And I encourage people to come out and ride them or just spend time, with them. There's a saying that there's something about the outside of a horse that's good for the inside of us all.
Amen.
It's true. So I encourage people to come out and enjoy the horses just in their horsiness and enjoy the riding of them. And then I and I do that so that it's safe for them. And then we have the goats, and with the goats, I encourage people to take the goats for a hike around the property and watch them eat, because there's something really really fun about watching a goat eat and helping them reach that last leaf that they can't reach.
Yes, goats are a lot of fun, and the young goats, the kids are awesome as well. So I noticed you're outside. Are there goats around you now?
I have some goats. We're in the process of grazing a local property that is overgrown with weeds, and I can turn the video around right now. There they are.
There we go, doing some goatscaping.
That's it.
That is awesome.
So I don't know if you can see, they're chewing on the stems of that sumac, and then of course the sumac just dies.
Nice. And so the sumac is not an issue for goats, where it would be 100% an issue for me because I'm allergic to it. So that's good. So do you offer that as a service to homeowners to help with sustainability for the farm?
That's why we're doing the goats, is because it's expensive to maintain the animals, and the goats are helping us with that.
That is awesome. So
you see my kids here. I'm sorry.
I do see
to be part of it.
There, yes.
And my son Joe.
It's a family affair.
It is. They're homeschooled, so they love to be in the middle of it all.
That is awesome. So for individuals who are coming to Birdhaven Ranch, where are you located? What city or town?
We're at 160 Bristol Ferry Road in Portsmouth, Rhode Island. So that's on Aquidneck Island.
But it's always better for people to call ahead. Don't just show up to the farm, because you could be out.
I could be out goatscaping. Like right now, somebody could decide that they want to go to the house, and I'm not there. And I can't keep. They could go over and see the bunny rabbits in their hutch, and I can't keep the bunny rabbits from tearing down the hutch to get the food that they want to offer.
Yes. Bunny rabbits are a lot of fun, and you're going to be bringing the bunny rabbits to the Calling All Veterans Day event at the West Warwick Civic Center. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And what kinds of programs? So you had mentioned the therapeutic riding and the goats. Do people need to have a particular kind of insurance? Is this all donation and volunteer based? How does this work for people who would like to participate at the farm?
We're happy to accept volunteers at the farm. It's right now I'm working to make ends meet, and therefore the goatscaping happens. I do give the horseback riding opportunities, and right now that is a paid for event. I hope to get to the point where it's a donation based event, and people who have a serious need, special needs and disabled and veterans who, have so many other expenses, I feel should be, able to access this stuff a little bit.
It sounds, if I'm understanding you correctly, then there's the opportunity for the general public to come in and ride for a fee.
Yep.
And that fee goes towards the sustainability of the nonprofit, so that you can offer the programs for individuals with different abilities and veterans and individuals who may have experienced trauma in their life at a free opportunity. So it's important that people participate with the goatscaping if they have a large area to be cleared, or if they want to go riding, right?
Yes. If you want to go riding, if you want to have, I have a great background in horseback riding. I had, as at my kids' ages, I had an instructor who was world renowned, and I did real well with that. And And then I moved on and trained some horses and worked on a ranch and did some rodeo work and all that sort of stuff. So I've got a pretty varied background and a lot of experience. And people like coming to me, horse people who have themselves had traumatic issues even around horses. And I've got one student who said she was never going to get back into horses, and then she met my horses and she gave one of my horses a try and a lesson with me, and now she's got 2 horses and looking at a third.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Horses have always been my passion, so I'm going to follow up with you offline about what's involved with coming down to ride. I have a granddaughter now who's very interested in horses too, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
So if people wanted to support you, what is the best way for them to do that? Do you need volunteers? Do you need donors? Do you need people to say, volunteer and help you with the social media or do fundraisers? What kind of things would allow Birdhaven Ranch to be able to offer your services to the community for eternity at a free rate for individuals in need? What do you need?
We're kind of a brand new nonprofit, so anything from anybody would be absolutely appreciated, and go toward the wellness of the animals and my ability to continue to provide for them.
That's awesome.
And of course, as the efforts grow and we expand, there's other things that'll become beneficial to our ability to provide the services. Like right now, we don't have an indoor arena, so it'd be great to have an indoor arena.
Very good.
Sort of stuff. So lots of potential for growth, and we're willing to work for it.
And what is your website for people to check out?
So you can look at our website at birdhavenranch.org.
Okay. And if they wanted to reach out to you, what is the best way to reach you?
The website has a contact form.
Okay.
Or you can contact us at 505-573-8220 or at the email address scrolling below us, megansimonsms@gmail.com.
Very good. Megan, I'm so glad that you had the chance to allow us to join you as you Goatscape and do this interview, because I know what it means to start a new nonprofit and all of the moving balls in the air, moving parts, and all of those pieces. So I am really grateful that you had the time to come on today. I'm super grateful that you're able to participate in Calling All Veterans Day.
We're excited.
Yeah. Get people connected to what's out there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That'll be great. Yeah, we're just minutes. Well, we're not far from the commissary, as I'm told.
Perfect.
So that's great. People can go to the commissary after or before they visit the farm.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on today, Megan. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great show happening. I am so glad that you're joining us today. My next guest is John Cianci of the Italian American War Veterans of the U.S. Welcome, John.
Yes, good morning, Deb.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good.
So tell me, what is the Italian American War Veterans?
We are a congressionally chartered organization signed into law by President Ronald Reagan in 1982. We are a primary of veterans, comprised of veterans, and then we have our auxiliary and our sons and our daughters and everything. We are no different than the like a VFW, an American Legion. We're a VA accredited organization to provide services for veterans, including helping them with their benefits and navigate through the VA system.
So, with the PACT Act, I know a lot of people became eligible for benefits that they hadn't been before the PACT Act. And, there's some timing things on that and an application process or filing notices of intent to file. Can you help people with that?
Oh, absolutely. We actually, me personally, I did almost 200 intent to file in a 3-week period, and what we take pride in, we try to find places that we know that in times that the veterans that can accommodate them. I was doing the intent to file in Federal Hill at Roma, on a table, sitting in the corner, and the 2 or 3 days that we did it, it was a nonstop. And then even the period when they extended it, they extended the period to get that application in. We did the Monday. I think we were the only organization that jumped to the plate again to say, listen, we're here to help you. And I've met veterans out at Dunkin' Donuts, all over the place. And then I even ran into Tara from her show and everything. And I know her husband and her son are veterans, and gave her the form and say, when in doubt, fill it out. That was the theme and everything that we went with and everything. And I've been on the phone almost every day helping veterans navigate and everything. And I try to cover I do a weekly veteran column, and I try to just simplify information for the veterans. And if you got your intent to file in, don't rush and doing your claim. Understand the process, and then move forward. You now have a year time frame to get that paperwork in, to get that claim with the evidence and fully developed. You do not want to get it in and get it denied and have it shot to the Board of Veterans Appeals, and that's a 3 to 5 year waiting period.
Wow. Yeah. So you want to make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed ahead of time. And with the PACT Act, is there a deadline for applying, or can people still apply?
There was no deadline to apply. Even Vietnam vets are still applying for the Agent Orange. The deadline was to get it in, and you would get the 1 year retroactive of benefits and everything. There's never a deadline to file. A matter of fact, like this week, I had a question, and the veteran called me, was about like the asthma, and that's one of the presumptions now. And but there's never a deadline to file, for a claim that if you believe you're entitled to a benefit. I was taught from the World War II veterans that you fill it out, the veteran wants it filled out, you do it, let the VA tell you no. And I've been very blessed on my own claim that I started in 1996, and it took me 27 years to receive 100%, VA rate and everything. And
does that go back to 96? I mean, not asking you to share more information, but
again, if you get into it and you start the appeal, you appeal it, and then the laws change, it does go back. I received almost $150,000 in retroactive, and I just very satisfying. About 4 weeks ago, before our national convention, a veteran in New York, I helped him prepare a Q, which was a clear error, because he had filed in '86 and they had made an error. He received $190,000 in retroactive.
Wow.
So again, if you get into it, like the camp, you see all these attorneys are out there. There's a lot of money in the retro part of it and everything. So if you think that, in my case, I was exposed to nerve gas sarin and I had neurological issues. They didn't recognize it back then. Okay, that we were in Desert Storm. Mm-hmm. So I applied, I got denied, we appealed it, more evidence and everything. If you think you have a condition and it's related, you put in for it, let them deny it, and then you just work the process. You learn to educate yourself. And there's a lot of our organization, the VFW, the American Legion. There's great organizations helping veterans that, and you don't need to, you don't need to get an attorney, or someone to come on board with you. But sometimes for the sanity, it's, the VA does overwhelm you with information, and having someone that, in my case, I had to give up 20% of my retro, which I would not have known some of the things my medical records had known and everything. And they were able to, get a doctor to look at it and say, Jesus, no, his neck and shoulders are messed up right by the MRI. So how can you deny it, that there was no medical documentation? So we appealed it, and it's still in the final appeal process, even though I achieved that 100% and what they call total and permanent, whatever. But there's a 7-year gap that the attorney that's been helping me feels that we're entitled to, and we should get probably another $50,000-$60,000 in retroactive.
And so individuals who maybe thought before that they were not eligible, or maybe they were told they were not eligible, they can reach out to the Italian American War Veterans. Okay. Sometimes called ITAM.
ITAM, that's our abbreviation. Absolutely. And everything. Yeah. I get a lot of veterans that the first response is, oh, I was denied. And the first process that I try to help them with is to educate them.
Yep.
Look at the reason you were denied. And 9 out of 10, especially if they were in the National Guard, it's not service connected. Today's article in our rinewstoday.com, I had a veteran with the tinnitus, and he received the CPAC, the CPAC later and everything. And just because you get the CPAC from the VA doesn't mean that it's a condition that they're going to recognize. You still have to link it to your service.
Yep.
And if you go to the article, I actually used a case that I found that a veteran was able to link it in the appeal process, that his tinnitus was causing him to wake up 2 or 3 times. And that's how he was able to prove his case in the appeal process and everything. Yeah. So it's the number one thing that we try to tell the veteran is educate yourself. You are your best veteran service officer, and don't accept anything like, unless you get it in writing. And then in writing, there, if I ever spent an hour with you, Deb, and showed you some of these clear black and white cases, and even especially with the survivor benefits, with the DIC benefits, there's so many widows out there that are not receiving their DIC benefits because they've been told it was income based. But DIC benefits is the death of that veteran was related to the service, the disability and everything. And I can tell you the last year, I probably 15 widows, we were successful in getting the DIC benefits, and a lot of them with the Navy. A lot of Navy veterans died of cancer, but a lot of those ships are on the Navy ships were asbestos, and they're on a list, and that's where the widow should put in for it and everything. And if
it's interesting that you bring out the spouses, because that was the impetus for RA Elder Info starting Calling All Veterans Day. Is a lot of times, and not to sound gender normative because it doesn't matter who your spouse is, but it was an adult daughter in their 70s calling to say, my mom is in her 90s. How do we help her stay home? And I know, just because I'm a history nerd too, that most women in their 90s were married to men who served in World War II, many of whom sustained injuries that would be disabling, and therefore their wives may be eligible for the VA aid and attendance benefit. Now, fast forward to current day, and people have been exposed to the Agent Orange. They've been exposed to the burning oil fields in Kuwait, and wide variety of things in the burn pits, and spouses may be eligible for services too. And I think sometimes there's pushback from the veterans where they're saying, I don't want to apply and take something away from a brother or sister who served, and they're more deserving than me. When someone has served and become disabled, is it the government's perception, not to say you can speak for the government, but if John doesn't apply, that now Mike can get more? Like the government's dedicated, John's money is John's money and can't be reallocated to somebody else, right?
Absolutely not, and not the case at all. And I give you the classic example. A lot of veterans tell me, well, I have health care. I don't need their health care. But the veterans, and the VA has the best over 65 programs, to help veterans. And the number one thing is you have to be registered and using the VA healthcare system. Otherwise, it really becomes hard to navigate you through that process while you need it, an urgency that you need it. And in Connecticut, in several conferences that I went to, the head of the director would explain to us, this is about 2 years ago, that they receive an allocation of $4,000 for a veteran going for his physical. So if that veteran goes to his physical and just does his physical, it's costing the VA about $600 to $700. There's $3,300 left in that bucket that they got allocated and everything. And I explained,
so just going to get your physical at the VA as a veteran, just going to get a physical once a year is actually allowing the VA medical center, wherever somebody lives, to receive money that can then be used to help others. Am I understanding that?
Yeah, money and allocation of slots, because it's a numbers game. And in the case of when I get veterans, and some of them have great healthcare programs and everything, and I tell them, I said, if I give you an extra oil change in your car every year for free, would you do it? Well, that's what they're doing. And their blood work is phenomenal, that what they're checking. They know the things to look at for the veterans with the hepatitis C and all the things. It's a routine to them. And
Right.
money is never an issue. And if I can, I became a caregiver for a veteran that has not Lou Gehrig's disease, but Parkinson's. He's well-to-do, has great medical coverage. The best services that he gets has been by the VA, and it's never been a money issue with them. Everything that I've asked for him, we didn't have to fight with an insurance company to say, hey, this can help him in his long term, doing the rock steady boxing or doing PT or doing different things and everything. But the most critical part, and even for the spouse, and this is what I tell veterans, you not only do it for you, but you do it for your family and your
Absolutely.
spouse. I know veterans that they've received aids in attendance because they want to keep that veteran or the spouse home. And but if you're not using the system, it's really hard to navigate. And I'm sure you've been involved with it, Deb. It's a lot harder. But if you have that VA card, and that particular veteran with Parkinson's, he had his VA card. And his bill when he had to have emergency surgery to save his arm, and when I found him, was almost $250,000 at Rhode Island Hospital. And he didn't pay 1 cent out of his pocket. If he had used his private insurance, that would have cost him about $30,000.
Exactly.
But when the ambulance came, I showed him the card. I said he's covered with the VA, and the only thing that he was doing was going for his VA annual physical and everything. And he got the full coverage in that because that was considered an emergency, and they covered everything at Rhode Island Hospital.
So you've mentioned a lot of different ways of connecting people and getting them the benefits. And you and I have talked about this earlier this year. ITM has started a new program, a Veterans Coffee Hour. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I just think it's so cool.
Yeah, we're in our third year. When I was living up in Connecticut, they started a little coffee house in Danielson, and they actually have like 100 people come to it. I think they're doing it like twice a month. So we started the Federal Hill Veteran Coffee House, and we do it at Roma. And we do it the
Shout
first
out to Roma.
Yeah. Yep. Roma, the first Monday of every month, they're on Atwells Ave. I pick up a tab. I start a tab at the coffee and the espresso bar. And then we just put 3 to 4 tables together. We usually have anywhere from 15 to 20 veterans that come out. They get their coffee, they get their espresso. Roma gives us complimentary Italian toast, the leftover Italian bread they put in the oven. And they bring that out in platters. Then we get some pastries that come out. We cut them in little sections so you don't feel that guilty, eating 2 or 3 different pastries. And then we usually cap it off with calzones or Roma's Pizza. And that's all picked up by our veteran, our organization, veterans of whether you're a member You're invited to come out. It's always the first Monday of the month, and it goes from 9 to 11. Bring a guest. And we don't have speakers. We don't have that type of format. It's just like a social hour, and it's amazing of how we connect some of these veterans. At one time, we had 3 veterans that were brothers that were making the monthly get together. They're coming out, and then people that knew as people that come out that ends up they're connecting in their life and everything from the past and everything, whether it was from a wedding or a brother-in-law, and it's just a time to hang out. But I have my computer there. I also have veterans that come in. I can go in a private area, and sometimes that initial conversation that we have with the veterans for the first time, just coming out socializing, they call me up later and say, "Hey, can I come sit down with you? I like to go over some of the things that I need some help with the VA and everything." And it's a really fun time.
You've replicated that model in some of the nursing homes now, right?
Absolutely. We're hitting 2 right now on a regular basis. We schedule with the activities department. It's a little challenging getting a schedule and everything. We've been going out on Saturdays. We schedule with them. We go out and to see the joy of a veteran. There's usually about 10 to 12 veterans in the group, and there might be their spouse too, or a widow of a veteran. They come to the event too. That's living at the nursing home. But the first time we went with the Dunkin' Donuts, they were crying. They hadn't had Dunkin' Donuts in years. And never mind the Italian pastries that we bring them, and just there's always some type of history that we find. They love telling their story. They love listening to the stories of us, the younger veterans, with them and everything. And I bring my grandkids. We call it a memory tray. The grandkids bring in yodels and devil dogs and all this little stuff, but it's all part of their past.
Absolutely.
And we really enjoy it. We did a whole, and veterans being the type of people that they are, the South Kingston nursing home, they were like, we don't want to feel that we're getting extra privileges and everything. So we helped, we coordinated, we did a full barbecue for the Memorial Day little service that they had. So the other people saw that, that the veterans were giving back to them and everything. And we're scheduling, we've been going to Friendly Nursing Home up in Woonsocket. We were supposed to do lobster and scallops with them last weekend, but they have a couple little.
So they've got some things going on up there that might not have been able to happen. Yeah, so that got postponed.
Yep. Yeah, we rescheduled it, and we're gonna with the staff and everything. We're gonna be doing that outside, and I cook the lobsters outside and the scallops, and I meet all the requirements. I have my food service manager license that the VA paid for, and part of my retraining and everything. So, they're very comfortable letting us come in and everything. And we have our insurance. We have our Italian American War veterans. We have insurance to cover us on liability stuff, the basic stuff and everything. As we learned, as we reached out to these facilities, those are the things that they were looking at. We had to dot those I's and everything.
Yep.
And then it brought us into what we expanded us into. I purchased a bus, a van.
I was just going to ask, I noticed that you're in a vehicle. So does ITAM offer transportation?
We will be. We're waiting to register it to get our stamp so we don't have to pay the sales tax on it. And that type of transportation would be for veterans. We're calling it MWR, Morale, Welfare, and Recreation. Staying away from the medical side of it. There's a lot of programs out there that do that and everything. But we found going to these nursing homes, a lot of these veterans are eligible for hearing aids, but the nursing homes can't get them to the VA. So we're going to be able to coordinate with them, make appointments for 4 or 5 of them, and take them out, for that. And of course, going back, we'll have to go through Federal Hill, and we'll make sure that they get treated there and everything. And then one of the saddest stories I was told was a veteran that was in the nursing home. He was there for about his year. His wife passed away. His wife needed to go in a nursing home, and the plan was they were going to be together. But at that time, the nursing home was completely full, and they couldn't move his roommate. So she had to go into another facility, and sadly, she passed away about 4 months later. and he could not go to his wife's funeral or services because he couldn't afford the $700, to get that transportation and everything. So when I had the opportunity, I saw this particular vehicle. We have an electric wheelchair in it, and I was in really good shape and everything. I kind of got the okay from my wife that I could use the line of credit, that she knows I've been looking for a van, and we thought we had a van being donated and everything, but that fell through and everything. So we ended up purchasing it and fronting the money as we continue to raise funds to pay for it and everything. But we've done some tests with it. We've taken a couple veterans to the 4th of July parade that are friends of ours from the veterans home. We'd have to get special permission. We've taken some of the veterans and their families out for ice cream with it and everything, and it's fun. And I probably have 5 volunteers that are already lined up to be drivers and everything. So I think it's going to be our goal is to be 2 or 3 times a week scheduling something at these nursing homes, and then different events. If it was ready up and running, we would have helped out getting transportation to your event this weekend.
That's okay. That's okay. And the next one, you guys can do transportation to the next one. So if people want to get involved and help support the work that ITAM is doing, do you need volunteers? Do you need donors? What would be most helpful for you? You mentioned raising money for the van for transportation. What would be most helpful?
I'll say the most helpful is the volunteers.
Okay.
The money, we scrape by getting the money and everything, and we have events and everything. But the volunteers, especially for the nursing homes and everything, you can never have enough. Sometimes we outnumber the veterans that are there, but there's certain rules you can't be, that you have to follow and everything. But socializing with them, if they want some more coffee, you're right there for them, and we spoil them and everything. But volunteers are extremely important. Our organization has some flexibility. If there's non-veteran connected, you just want to be a volunteer, and if you just want to be on the volunteer list, then that's okay. And then when my weekly column that I do in the RI News Today, I list the events, and you see something that you can help out with, reach out to us. We've been doing a monthly luncheon for veterans at Perella's Restaurante in Warren. We had over 60 come out for that, this last week. We do that on the 3rd Monday of every month. And there's, even if it's just helping veterans come in, opening the door for them and everything. And it's very satisfying and everything. And without the volunteers, you can have as much money as you want and everything. But without those volunteers that really are there for volunteering and being part of the team and everything, you can't be successful.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. John, you have so much going on. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on to the virtual Calling All Veterans Day today and participating in the event live.
Okay. And I thank you. And I'm going to be blaming you with my grandkids that are waiting at Davis farmland for me right now.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, kids.
Yeah.
All right, John. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Deb, and thanks for the connecting. And I look forward to continuing to work with you. Have a great day.
Absolutely. Bye-bye. Folks, lots of great information. And let me tell you, the virtual event is just a teeny tiny portion of what's available at the live event. So if you have a minute, come on down, West Warwick Civic Center, 100 Factory Street in West Warwick. Say hello and meet even more resources. It's amazing. It has been going great at Calling All Veterans Day. And I'm hoping if you have time that you stop by 100 Factory Street in West Warwick, the West Warwick Civic Center, and check out everybody who is there. Tons and tons of resources. So our virtual event is a sampling of some of the information that's available, really just a little bit sample. So please come on down. And if you've been there and you're watching this after the Calling All Veterans Day event at the West Warwick Civic Center, please drop a note in the comments section and let us know how that went for you. We really love community feedback. We want to hear the good and the bad. How can we make it better? So I thank you all for joining us. And now my next guest is with the Rhode Island American Legion. Welcome, Betty. Hi, Commander.
Nice to see y'all.
So tell us, what is the American Legion? What does it do? Who can be members? All those fun details.
So the American Legion is the largest veterans organization across the United States. We have roughly 2 million members. We are always looking for the younger folks. So anyone who's currently serving now or has served in the last, say, 20 years, come on in the door, see what we offer. We have scholarships for yourself, for children, for grandchildren, great-grandchildren. We have oratorical, which is a speaking contest for high school students where they can win scholarships. We have the Boys State, which teaches our high schoolers about the Constitution and how to create laws, how laws are made.
We need more of that.
Yes, I would like everyone to know about the PACT Act, which was passed recently. And if you have been exposed to any burn pits while you were serving overseas, we need you to come in and see a service officer so we can get a claim started for you. Anything from Agent Orange all the way up through and including Afghanistan and Iraq. Please come in, get your benefits that you so rightly deserve.
And is it required that the individual have served on foreign soil in order to join the American Legion?
No, you only have to have served a total of 90 days on active duty. You could have been assigned anywhere in the world. It could be in the States or anywhere else. It does not have to be boots on the ground time.
So when someone joins the American Legion, what kinds of activities can they participate in as a member of the American Legion?
So we do a lot of work with the community. Any veteran-centered event we're at, we have benefits through, then they can come in the door and talk to the service officer. Even if they haven't been exposed to anything like the burn pits, any disability or anything injury that has impacted you that's connected to your military service, you can put in a claim for. We want you to get the benefits that you so rightly deserve. We have the GI Bill, which was signed into law in 1944 for education and also housing and career-related benefits. We want you to come in the door and get what you deserve. You serve this country. Let us help you get what you deserve.
So you mentioned veteran service officers. So, sometimes, particularly for our older veterans, when they returned home, the Vietnam era in particular, they were told, oh, you're not eligible for benefits. And so they may be hesitant to apply. And some folks may say, oh, well, I don't want to take away from what somebody else who may be more needy should get or could get. Are the veteran service officers able to navigate what people are eligible for now? I mean, we think about the big things like Agent Orange, but I don't know. I'm a civilian. but call me crazy. I think when you join the military, you're taught to shoot guns, and that is something that can impact your hearing. And maybe you're jumping out of helicopters or climbing over those things, and that can impact your knees, your ankles, your back, all those things. Can someone from the American Legion help individuals figure out if these things are service connected?
Yes, they can, Deb, and we want them all to come and try, you know. And if you put in a claim and it gets rejected, we put it in again. Sometimes it just depends on the person that it comes in front of. So there is, we don't want anybody to be discouraged. We want everyone to apply, because it could be your hearing, it could be your knees, your ankles, because like you said, you jumped out of a plane or a helicopter, or maybe just carrying the pack, you know.
Yeah.
70
Yeah.
or more pounds on your back and walking, you know,
Yeah.
miles
Yeah.
and miles a day.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah.
And God bless our military members and veterans who have done that, because I know I don't have the constitution to do it. I am grateful for all who have done that, for sure. If somebody is coming in, where are the legions located, and is there a cost associated with speaking with a veteran service officer at the American Legion?
We have 40 posts across the state of Rhode Island. There is no cost to come in and talk to anybody.
Okay.
You can walk in. The department service officer who does all the claims, he has an office on Westminster Street in Providence. Yeah, and it's a VA building. It costs nothing to come in and talk. You can come in and talk as much as you want and as many times as you need to get your claim submitted. The individual posts have post service officers, which will take your information and connect you with the department service officer so that he can enter your claim for you and get you started on in the process.
Wow. Okay.
The only cost is to become a member. It's $40 a year, but you can do any and all of the activities, and we encourage you to bring your family in. We have things for spouses, we have things for children. We also have a junior shooters. There's so many different things that happen, and we just need you to come in the door and say, "Hey, my name is," and "What do you have for me?" And let us do that. Last Sunday we had one at the Shields Post in Connecticut section of Warwick. There's going to be some across the state this next calendar year. So, and you don't have to wait for an open house. Just come in. Come in and say, "Hi, my name is, I served." Let us welcome you into the family and give you the camaraderie and the support that you need as you transition. Or even if you've been out for a while, it doesn't matter. You could be active duty now, or you could be a member of the Guard Reserve. We want you to come in the doors.
So National Guard, those individuals are able to join the American Legion and participate as well.
Yes.
Okay. And I understand it's great for applying for benefits, but a little bird told me that you guys do a lot of other really cool stuff. You've got the Legion Riders, the motorcycle association.
Yes, and you don't even have to be a veteran to join the riders. If you just want to support, as long as you ride, you can be a rider. And actually, you don't even have to be the one that rides the motorcycle. You can be one that sits on the back.
Okay.
And you, like I said, you don't need to be a member. You can just be part of our community. We have a large rider community in Rhode Island.
And I would imagine when the American Legion is doing bike runs, that being familiar with bike runs, you're going to need people who are rolling in a cage just to, ride sweep to make sure people stay safe and cars don't do crazy things when the bikes are going by, kinds of things. So I would imagine even folks who are in cars would be able to participate with the riders.
Yes, that's true. And it's not the more heartwarming to see them come down the street, to watch them come down the street. And they do it for bike runs. They do it for funeral processions. They do it. They also are there for when our troops leave and when they come home. there's a lot of different things you can get involved in.
Absolutely. And I'm a firm believer loud pipes save lives. And when you see the bikes go by, many of them are flying flags. To me, it's very emotional, exciting, and to feel that rumble in your chest is pretty darn cool. You guys have an amateur radio program too, right?
We have in the past. We are gonna get it started again. I can't give specifics. I don't know exactly, but yes, we do want to get that rolling again because that is a good way to get our message out.
Absolutely. So I would imagine even if there are tech students out there and they wanted to help the American Legion, help our veterans, get connected, I'm sure that you could use that kind of support as well.
Definitely.
Right?
Most definitely.
And now that
we welcome.
the season's kind of winding down a little bit now that we're at the end of August, something about baseball?
Yes, we just had our baseball championship series the beginning of August, and Rhode Island came in second. We hosted it here, and we had teams from New Hampshire, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and like I said, Rhode Island came in second. So you know what? It was really, we had 2 teams in there. Each state had 2 teams, and it was really awesome to watch. The heart that these young men played with, between 12 and 18. We have juniors who are start at 12, and then we have the senior bracket, which is high schoolers. They really play hard. They really play hard, and it's really nice to see them learning about the Legion and helping us get the word out to their families and friends that we're here and, we want to help.
Yeah, it sounds like there's just a wealth of opportunities to give back to the community as a member of the American Legion, and also opportunities that if you do need assistance, the American Legion can help you.
Exactly.
What are the criteria to become a member of the American Legion?
You need to have served on active duty for at least 90 days and have an honorable discharge.
Okay. So it doesn't have to be in a foreign land. You don't have to be disabled. It's fine if you are and have. Okay. Anyone who's served 90 days.
Anyone who's served. Yeah.
National Guard, Reserve.
And we're looking for you, and we're here to welcome you in and show you the camaraderie and the support that you had when you were serving. Sometimes transitioning into civilian world, there's not always that same type feeling. We want to give that back to you. We want you to get back and feel that. And, we have different posts have different activities, but there are things for children and families as well. Craft night, movie night, ice cream sundae, make your own.
Nice.
Come in and check us out and tell us what you want.
Yep.
If there's a certain thing that you would like to do, either with other veterans or with your children and your families, tell us what that is so that we can do for you. The way we can best serve you is to let us know what you need and what you want and what you enjoy. We have dart leagues and pool leagues and card leagues. What else can we do for you? We would like to get gaming started. We would love to get gaming started here. So you would all come into one of the posts around the state and game with other people in the same room.
Nice.
There'd be no contest, no money, just being in the room, doing this like thing with like-minded people, and maybe that will bring some more of the younger in.
Absolutely. Some hardcore gamers.
Yeah. And we want the gamers in, and if gaming is not your deal, then tell us what is.
Absolutely. Might develop a pickleball league. You never know.
That's it. We could do that. We just need somebody to lead it. I don't know if we have anybody that plays, but yeah, come in and start your own league.
That would be awesome. Awesome.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. And you're right. Sometimes, we think about from the civilian world into the military, there's boot camp, which will acclimate everyone and train everyone on how to serve. But that transition from serving back into civilian life, I think that's an area where many hands make the load light. And I think it's really important what the American Legion is offering to folks in that regard.
Yes, I agree with you. Sometimes transitioning can be difficult, and we want to make that easier for you. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you're just getting out or if you've been out 5 years, or if you've been out 10, 15, 20, we still want you in. We want to welcome you back into the fold and show you that there is still that support. There is still that camaraderie, and it's family. It's family.
Absolutely.
So, and we want you and your family. We don't, some people will say, well, I work all day. When I get out of work, I just want to be with my family. Bring your family in for the events, and the whole family can be a part of it.
It sounds like a wealth of opportunities to give and to receive.
Yes.
What is the best way for people to reach out for the American Legion of Rhode Island if they want to get more information?
They can email AL
Yeah.
ADJRI@yahoo.com.
So let me see if I've got that. American Legion, AL, adjutant, so
Yes.
ADJRI@yahoo.com.
Awesome. Yeah, and if you want to put my email and my phone number out there, that's fine too. I welcome that.
Okay.
Yeah, we want people to know that there are more than one way to get a hold of us, or they could just walk in to any post.
Perfect.
I'm gonna put the Shields post out there, 662 West Shore Road, because that's where I belong. But you can walk into any post, and there are some posts that have music every Friday night. There are other posts that have meals. Come in and check us out. See what works best for you, where the best fit would be for you, and join us.
Awesome.
Help us grow.
Absolutely. Betty, I appreciate you taking the time. There's so many things that I know as commander of the American Legion that you're involved in. I'm really glad that you're able to come to Calling All Veterans Day at the West Warwick Civic Center, and that you had the additional time to come on our virtual show. So I really, really appreciate you coming on today. Thank you.
And we love supporting you here in Rhode Island.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Everybody, it's amazing Calling All Veterans Day. It's our 4th year. We could not do this without the support of our sponsors. So big thank you to Newport Mental Health, AARP RI, and Rob Levine and Associates, as well as our individual sponsors and donors. It is absolutely amazing what it is that you're able to help us bring forth into the community.